Hey, I'm Louise Woods from Wretched Hive Comedy in Los Angeles. I'm so grateful that MissImp invited me to make a video for you guys. I'm going to be using my education in film production to help give you guys some tips and tricks for any price level that you can make the most out of your setup for doing improv at home. And the first thing I'm going to recommend is for your camera. I'm going to recommend your camera be either at eye level or above. That means like kind of looking down at you. And the reason for that is MySpace angles. It's just going to be a little bit more flattering. You're not going to be getting the chin and nose angle of, if the camera was down here. Instead, it's going to be here, which is more so where you would want people to be. So there's different ways that you can get your camera at a higher angle. You can either use a laptop or monitor stand that are commercially available at most office supply stores, or you can get a tripod. There's different mounts available for both cell phones, webcams, and fancier cameras. Or you can just put it on a cardboard box. I mean, make sure that it's sturdy. Some of these things are expensive, and you do not want to be trying to do an improv scene worrying about whether or not your camera's going to fall. I'm going to say that from experience. Okay, speaking of cameras, there are different options at different price levels that you can look at for how you want to film yourself. These days, you can probably just use a cell phone or an inexpensive webcam and get a good enough quality for what you need to do. Definitely the more connected you can be to the internet, the better quality you're going to get. The really expensive option would be doing a DSLR. I really wouldn't recommend that for the average person just because of the fact that they're really expensive, and most people, you're going to get a good enough quality from either a cell phone or a webcam, or just use the built-in one on your laptop or computer if you already have one. Most of them are already good enough quality. A way that you can get the most out of your camera, whatever kind of camera you have, is lighting. What I'm going to recommend first is that you don't have an overhead light. The reason for that is that the light overhead is going to give you kind of a supervillain vibe, where it's going to light up the top of your head and light up your brow bone, but then there's going to be a shadow over where your eyes are. And really in improv, eyes are the window to the soul. That's how you connect to your scene partner. That's how you connect to your audience. That's how I'm connecting to you guys right now. And so if you can't see that, you can't connect. And connection is so important in this day and age. So make sure that your eyes are visible. Doing that alone is you can use the lighting that you already have, just as long as it's not overhead. That could mean putting yourself closer to a window, bringing a lamp closer to you so that way it's illuminating more of your face. However, if you do want to buy something, there are 3 tips that I have. One is going to be that it's dimmable. If it's not dimmable, the only way to make it less bright is to move it further away from you. And I don't know about you, but I don't have 6 feet to move my light away. The next one, color temperature. What that means is the light can be adjusted to different temperatures. Right now, my lights are set to white, which works for most situations. However, if you are using light that is coming from outside, that's going to change depending on what time of day it is. And so you want to be able to match that. Or if the lights that you are using from inside your house, like a lamp or something like that, it might read a different temperature on camera than it looks in person. You can get light bulbs for your house that are different color temperatures if you look at the box when you buy it at wherever you buy light bulbs. Okay, and the last one is LED. The reason you want to look for an LED is because it's going to be less expensive than a lot of other lights because they're pretty cheap to make. They're going to be more likely to have those features at an inexpensive price, and they don't use a lot of power. Once you get into those professional lights, they use a lot more power than necessarily your wall has. So if you're plugging in more than one light. So definitely LED. You don't have to worry about that stuff. I would recommend starting out with a ring light. Ring lights are going to be the most flattering way to do it. Ring light means that it is shaped like a ring. It's round. I recommend about 10 inches because that's going to be enough to kind of encircle your face, and you could have your camera in the middle of it, and then it's going to be well softly lit all around, really flattering. If you really want to get a full like legit setup, then what you want to do is you'll have a 3-light setup, and that is you have a key light, which is going to be your brightest light. You want to have that 45 degrees, so like center here, and then it's like 90 degrees is like a square, and then halfway between that is where my key light is, and that's what's illuminating most of my face. I try to give a nice little cute triangle right here. That's going to be the most flattering. You want it like up, so it's making this nice little triangle of light. That's perfect. Then you're going to have your filler light. That one's going to be not as bright as your main light. I actually have mine really, really close because it's just a little tiny ring light, and so it's super soft. It fills in the shadows that were created by that light. So if I had that off, like right here would be all shadowy, and so instead I look more balanced. Lastly, you have a backlight. In movie setups, you would have the backlight be above, and that would be the one that would actually look like a lamp above. However, you have it so that it's just, touching the tops and the backs of your head. And what that does is that kind of separates you from your background, and it makes your hair look all shiny. And then you might notice I'm getting some contouring here, see that? Just a little, but it really defines and adds a shape to the face, so that way it's not too flat. That's, to me, one of the ways that you can tell like good lighting versus like okay lighting is like it's got that like you want it to have shape. Like shape is actually a nice thing. One thing that you might be worried about that you might not need to worry about as much as your background. So behind me, you can see like, oh, it looks so nice. It's like a blue background, like fancy. So that is a curtain on a shower rod. That's really all you need to get a solid colored background. But if you don't have the space to put up a curtain rod behind you, don't worry about it. Most people are pretty good at tuning out people's background. As long as you're well lit, the focus will be on you. Next thing is going to be sound. I am not a sound engineer. I'm not a sound professional. But one way that you can get your sound the best out of whatever equipment you already have, whether it's, all the different cameras that we talked about, is by wearing some of these. This is the way that I can hear my teammates playing whatever they're saying, but my mic is not having to do the work of removing their sounds. I had to get an extension thing because it wasn't really long enough for me to be able to like move around comfortably. Don't forget about movement. You want your setup to be in a way that you can have the freedom to move and make big physical choices, because that's what you do on stage, and you want to bring that here. So that means you want your lights far enough away from you that you're not worried about knocking them over. Don't be worrying about that when you should be worrying about your scene partner. Which brings me to something you might have noticed I was doing in the video, which is looking at myself. That is something, people do. One way that you cannot do that is listening and reacting to your scene partner. That is where the gold is your scene partner. They're giving you all of the information you need. That's actually something that Ariane Price recommended to me. She is one of the Groundlings, and she's a teacher. She's been a really great mentor to me personally. Like, I adore her. Also, keep in mind that there are things that you have control over, which are some of the things that I said here, and there are things you don't have control over, like a dog barking, children, or, cats coming in. I once had a scene where my 6-year-old niece came in and jumped on me, like literally like laid on top of me in a scene, and I just kind of had to go with it. And everybody in the scene and the people watching were like, that was great. Like, you just have to go with it, work it into your scene somehow, like listen and react to whatever is happening around you. And that's really what improv is all about. So I hope that you found this video helpful. Thanks again to MissImp for inviting me to record this for you guys, and please try to check out my Star Wars inspired improv show, The Spark. We are showing the last Sunday of every month at 6 p.m. British Standard Time. And if you come early, you can actually play some games with us. So, it's a really great opportunity to just have some fun and do some improv and enjoy improv that's inspired by a galaxy far, far away.